Oh, praise, glory, and honor to the Lord of hosts, the King of glory, the King of saints, the Lord God Almighty, the one that sits upon the throne, like the book of Revelation says. The only wise God, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, who he has sent, the one that only has immortality, the only one that is self-existent, the only one that is good, as Jesus said, the one who is omnipotent. His eyes are everywhere, viewing the good and the evil. He's the judge of all the earth, the creator of the ends of the earth, the one who created Adam and Eve, the one who created Adam and then breathed into him the breath of life, and he became alive. He's the one in the books of Moses that says, I am the one that kills, and I am the one that makes alive. In other words, he's the one that decides who will live and who will die. And there's only one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Jesus the Christ, who gave himself a sacrifice for sin, an offering for sin. He shall make himself an offering for sin. That's what it says in the book of Isaiah. God is the God of Moses, the God of Isaiah, the God of Jesus, and the God of John, who was the vehicle God used to give us the book of Revelation. All right, continuing on in this series, False Doctrine in Acts. I've eliminated the name Paul because really the apostles were the same. They were the ones who told him what to say, told him what to do. And we've already read, if you definitely want to go back to the first part and to review the apostles told Paul to go and prove that he was Jewish and have the priests, the Jewish priests, make sacrifice for him, and he would become a Nazirite. And then he would receive the sacrifices of a Nazirite. And it's quite amazing. And so where we're at right now is, well, I talked about some things last week and I wasn't sure about a couple of things. Whenever I'm not sure, then the next time I usually correct them. So I was talking about the hair, the significance of the hair, and I made a comment off the top of my head. But I wrote this here about the hair. The Nazirite's hair was a sign to all that he was dedicating his life to God. He was not permitted to cut it or trim it in any way. So it was a statement that he was focusing on the spirit man rather than the physical man. And another way to put it is that it was a sign of denial of worldly concerns and denial of outward physical beauty. And I looked into it and I found out it's because if you don't cut your hair, it grows uneven. It don't look too good. And also you get split ends. And that's not the ideal way for hair to be either, as far as I can tell. Way back when I had hair. I also made a statement about whether a man or a woman could become a Nazirite. And it says right in verse 2, of Numbers 6. We've already read Numbers 6, which tells you all about this ceremony, all about this rite, this ritual, this vow that is given by God. And in the second verse, in the number 6, it tells you that a man or a woman can become a Nazarite. But we don't see any of that. We don't see any women. We don't have too many cases of a Nazarite in the Bible. We have Samson, and he was supposed to be a Nazarite, but I just got done reading the book of Judges, and I have nothing good to say about it. In fact, I could say some really negative things about the book of Judges. In fact, I don't even think it's true, really. There are so many things in the book of Judges that are just not plausible. The story of Samson is not plausible at all. There's so many things in that book. In fact, I stopped in the second to the last chapter. I was disgusted. I said, "Oh, that's it." And I started reading and I said, "What is this? More of the same." The story of Samson is so implausible. The woman, Delilah, clearly proves that she's trying to kill him and take away his power. And then he tells her how to do it. So please, the man wasn't, if he existed, there's so many things in the book of Judges that are not plausible. It's written so poorly. Just the way it's written, there's no detail, on and on and on. It just is so not right. Even though it says, people have found things in there that seem to fit in with the rest of the Bible, and the word Nazarite, and Samson was a Nazarite, and he was going to save the people, and they had the Philistines and all this. But if you look at the detail of what they give, which is hardly anything, it's very, very aggravating and annoying. It doesn't agree with so many different things. Other parts of the Bible can do that too, but this whole book is like this. And we don't know who wrote it. But if you want to read it, it's good to see just how bad it is. There's things in there which are just not biblical. There's no talk of priests. There's no talk of the law. There's no talk of, a lot of different things that should have been talked about. Just amazingly poor writing. So, the next verse I want to mention is Acts 18:18, because it's really quite amazing. This is all we have about this issue. But apparently, Paul was taking the Nazarite vow at other times. And that's all you can deduct. That's all you can determine. Let me read it. Acts 18:18. And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren somewhere, wherever he was. He was bouncing around all kinds of different places, and sailed to Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, And then it says, having shorn his head in Cenchrea. What? For he had a vow. So this was before he took the vow to try to deceive the Jews from Asia. So apparently he was doing this in other places. He was appearing to be, because he said he made himself all things to all men. So he was like a chameleon. He was acting like he was a Jew, taking the Nazarite vow. Then he was turning around and saying that he was totally against the law. That's the amazing thing. Totally saying he was against the law, he didn't believe in the law was dead, the law was completely ended, and then he turned around and do the law. Well, that's what's written. What can I tell you? Okay, now we're going to read Numbers 6. We'll continue on. We ended at Numbers 11, and now we're going to finish the large section that I have here in Numbers 6. And he shall consecrate to the Lord. This is what the Nazarite was supposed to do. And I have a lot of explanation for all this that I'll read, I guess, afterwards, after I read everything, I guess. And he shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation, and shall bring a lamb of the first year for a trespass offering, but the days that were before shall be lost, because his separation was defiled. That's if a dead body, that's why you need to watch the previous two videos. Because if somebody died then near him, or if he even went near a dead body, then his hair was defiled. And so he had to start from the beginning and grow his hair again. He had to shave his head and start growing it again. And it says here that, but the days that were before shall be lost. So all that he did before would not count. And then it says, and this is the law of the Nazarite when the days of his separation are fulfilled. He shall be brought to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So think about it. This is what the apostles of Jesus, the brother of Jesus, Peter, this is what they told him to do. How can this be? This is the epitome of deception. This is the epitome of false doctrine, blasphemy. This is the epitome of insult against the sacrifice of Christ, the offering of Christ. Why was he sacrificed if you had to go and continue to sacrifice animals? You know, you're denying it. You're denying Christ big time if you would do such a crazy thing. So, and it goes on, verse 14. Move it up. And he shall offer his offering to the Lord. Apparently, they wanted him to kill animals. Of course, the priest did it to be able to have an atonement. Well, Jesus is the atonement. One sacrifice once for all. All the offerings, all the sacrifices have been done away with, obviously, in the sacrifice of Christ. It's a great deal. It's an amazing arrangement. And he shall offer his offering unto the Lord, one he-lamb of the first year without blemish for a burnt offering, and one ewe-lamb of the first year without blemish for a sin offering, and one ram without blemish for peace offerings. A ewe-lamb is a female, because notice it says one he-lamb, and they could have said one she-lamb, but they didn't. They used that word "u" or "you," however you say it. So amazingly, there were 3 animals that had to be sacrificed. 3 separate animals for each person who was taking the vow of a Nazarite. 3 separate sacrifices, 3 separate animals. And they had to buy them. That's why they said to Paul, they said, you pay for the animals for these 4. So apparently he had a lot of money, Paul. You know, he had a miracle ministry, and people throw money at miracle ministries. And so he was going to pay. Well, they doesn't say really how he had the money, because they don't tell you these details. You know, maybe they gave it to him. Maybe the apostles had the money and they gave it to him to pay for these others. We don't know. And then they also had to do some other giving, you might say, some other offerings. Verse 15, in a basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, and wafers of unleavened bread anointed with oil, and their meat offering and their drink offerings. It doesn't really say what the meat offering is. I mean, I guess it's the offering from the sacrifices. Because then it says, and the priest shall bring them before the Lord, and shall offer his sin offering and his burnt offering. You know, Jesus is supposed to be our once-for-all sin offering. So what is he doing? Because, you know, he kept claiming he believed in Jesus, Paul, throughout his writings. And here he is killing an animal for a sin offering. And then we have 17. And he shall offer the ram for a sacrifice of peace offerings. That's the priest. The priest does this. To the Lord with the basket of unleavened bread. With the basket of unleavened bread. The priest shall offer also his meat offering from the animals. It tells you about all these things throughout the law. Like, you know, you'll take of this particular offering and you will eat it, or you burn it. And his drink offering. And the Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Apparently these were done after he was defiled. It's a little confusing. It's not totally 100% clear all the time what these priests or what the people were supposed to do and all this, because, you know, so if he was defiled, then I guess he had to have the 3 separate sacrifices, and then it appears he was supposed to do the sacrifices at the end. So I don't know why it's saying that he's going to shave. The Nazarite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tabernacle. Well, actually, the way that works is that he's shaving it again. He went through the cycle twice, and he's got long hair. And they never told you how long the hair had to be, but he's shaving the head again. So it's really the second time. Yeah, that's right. It's the second time he's grown long hair. He had to shave it first, start over again, grew it out again, and then he has to shave it again if he was defiled the first time. Yeah, I figured that out. And shall take the hair. Then he had to take the hair, put it in the fire. And shall take the hair of the head of his separation. You see, so it's the hair of his separation. He was separating himself from the world. That's why he wasn't supposed to eat any grapes. And I'm going to read some verses that confirm he wasn't supposed to eat anything with the vine, grapevine. So he takes the hair, once he cuts it all off, and he puts it in the fire. It says, put it in the fire which is under the sacrifice of the peace offerings. See, there's peace offerings, there's wave offerings, there's burnt offerings, there's meat offerings, there's sin offerings, and it tells you all about this throughout the books of Moses. And Jesus has removed the need for all these offerings. And then it says in verse 19, and the priest shall take the sodden shoulder of the ram and one unleavened cake out of the basket, and one unleavened wafer, and shall put them upon the hands of the Nazarite after the hair of his separation is shaven. So that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to take all this well, it's amazing because it says he's supposed to take the shoulder, the butchered shoulder, the butchered part, the shoulder part of the ram, and the cake, the bread, and the wafer, and put them onto the hands of the Nazarite. And it says, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering. There's the wave offering before the Lord. This is, so that, I guess they were literally waving this as if you'd wave, put something up in the air, then wave it. A wave offering before the Lord, this is holy for the priest. With the waved breast and the heaved shoulder. And after that, the Nazarite may drink wine. So now we can get back to boozing it. Now we can get back to alcohol. If he likes drinking alcohol, he can. That's why they, at least in the book of Judges, it says, about Samson. So it has a lot of tinges of Judaism in the book of Judges, because it says, okay, and the angel supposedly came to the parents of Samson, and it told them that they weren't supposed to give him any wine or any raisins, no grapes, anything like that. He was going to be a Nazarite from the womb, and say, "Oh, that's good doctrine. That's the doctrine of Judea, But then you read on, and it's like harebrained to the maximum degree. And that's why people have it in there, but it is totally harebrained. And then lastly, this is the law of the Nazarite who has vowed, and of his offering to the Lord for his separation. beside that his hand shall get, according to the vow which he vowed. So he must do after the law of his separation. What that means here, where it says, beside that his hand shall get, I had to look that up, because I said, what is that? What is that supposed to mean? Well, what it means, if you look at the other versions, is that if he wanted to bring more offerings, if he wanted to actually have more offerings, more sacrifices, more bread, or whatever, he could do that. He wasn't limited to just that. He could do other sacrifices as as an offering to God, as an atonement. So I have quite a few things I wanted to use to explain the significance of all these commandments in this vow, this Nazarite vow. There's a lot of things, because at first you don't understand why was raisins prohibited? Why was alcohol prohibited? So I've got a lot of other verses and some other information. I got a large passage from a preacher who lived in the 1800s. I changed the paragraph to some degree. But I'll read that next time, because that's going to take another 15 to 20 minutes, and I don't want to get into it right now.